Hi, it's K-Pro. I want to show you Kommander, which is a tool that I've been working on for the last couple of weeks. I think it's come along far enough that it's worth doing a video, so here we are. It is available on my Git, and you can see the address here. I'll also put the address down below the video. My Git has, the latest release with what I'm working on now and any new features and any bug fixes. I try to keep it in working order so that you can just download this by going to the code and downloading the Git. However, from time to time I might break it because I'm actively developing the tool. So I have the stable releases over here. If for whatever reason you run into a problem, well, please let me know if you find a bug. But you can go back to one of these stable releases and you should be fine. You can save Kommander any place you want. I keep all of my Steam related stuff on S, so that's why I have Kommander on S, but you can put it any place you like. Once you have it downloaded, I like to make a shortcut on my desktop, so let's take care of that. Now that we have our shortcut, we can move on to the first time setup. We'll just click our shortcut, say yes, and then we go into the folder settings. The tool populates most of these folder locations based on the way that works best for me, and also it looks into your registry to see where the game is located. So one thing to note is that I like to have the server run out of the DayZ folder. So you'll see that these two are the same. I think that makes sense because it uses the same exe, the diagnostic exe, to run it. But you can do it otherwise. If you want to have this different server folder, Kommander will handle that just fine. You can hit the three dots, choose whatever server folder you want. If you do that though, you also need to choose a folder where you're going to keep the profiles. DayZ suggests that it be in the DayZ folder because it's assuming that you're going to run the server from the DayZ folder. If you change this one, you should also change this one so that the profiles point to the appropriate directory. Check to make sure all of these are pointing to the right places. If the Kommander makes a mistake, then you can use the three dots to fix that mistake. Kommander is intended to keep the mod source files and the packed mod files in subfolders. You can put those wherever you like. I think it works best if these are not kept on P, but where you put them is up to you. And it also has an archiving feature where it automatically creates a zip archive of your mod every time you open it, and you need to select an archive folder for that. So let's do that now. I keep everything Steam related on S. I call my mod source folder mod source. I call my packed mod folder mod packed. The archive folder I call mod archive, which is going to be no surprise. If you needed to create a folder, you could do it here and just select that one, but I already have these created, so I don't need to do that. Hit save, and you shouldn't have to go back and change it. If you do, you can always click folder settings and get back there, but once you get it set up, typically you won't need to go and change it anymore. If it's set up correctly, and if you had any mods already, they're going to show up in the Select Existing Mods panel. However, we're going to demonstrate making a new mod from the template. To create a mod from the template, you just click this button. Because it's the first time, we're going to need to go into the gearbox, but I want to put in the new mod name. We're going to call this my new mod. Call it anything you want, of course. And then you should put in a shortcode, which is used to differentiate methods that are likely to repeat so that you don't get a duplicate resource error. So we're going to use MNM as the shortcode. I'm not going to talk about customizing the template in this video because I want to keep it short, but this panel is so you can add some commonly needed features like keybinds or server settings, that sort of thing. We'll click on the gear, and assuming you're following along and I think if you should follow along without making any changes, this is going to be populated correctly. But it's set up so that you can hit these three dots and choose a different template mod folder in case you have your own template mod. And of course, you're free to make any alterations to the template mod that comes with Kommander to customize it to your own needs. All right, now we just need to hit create, and we have a new mod. Our new mod is created in mod source, which is where we told it we want to put our new mods, and it's called my new mod because that's the name we gave it. And if we look in here, we see a few things that are worth pointing out. I've made an effort to make Kommander as transparent as possible, and also so that it can be used by newer modders like myself for learning purposes. So I've included batch files here that accomplish all of the things that the tool accomplishes through the GUI. Kommander used its template to create the folder structure that you need. It has a config CPP, and then it just has the code that you need to test hot loading, which I'm going to get to in a bit. Okay, we're ready to build and launch. Returning to Kommander, we just need to hit the next button, making sure that we've selected my new mod, and we can see that up here. This is the panel where you would add any additional mods that you needed, like CF, for example. We're not going to do that for this pass-through because I think it makes sense to keep things simple just to make sure everything's working correctly. These folder locations are required for some of the more advanced creation tools that I have in here, like the GUI creation tool. We don't need that for this demonstration, so we're just going to skip past it. But if you're using Kommander's template, then this should be set up correctly automatically. All right, we're at the launch page, which is where we need to be. Because we've never built this mod before, we need to build it the first time. And actually, it's not going to work because we have to set it up. You can choose either add-on builder or Micro. Some people complain that the add-on builder, it doesn't work very well. I really haven't had any problems with it, but I wanted to support both in case you don't have Micro or for whatever reason don't want to use Micro. Micro does have some parameters that need to be set. You can hit, if you're not sure what those parameters are, you can click on the question mark and it'll show you, so you can choose the ones that make sense for you. But these example parameters are the ones that I use, so I can just put them in there and click save. Now we're ready to build. Click build, and it's going to indicate that the build was successful by the green here. If it wasn't successful, it would be red. And we can just click on that and see Micro's output. One thing I did add for all of the logs, I guess I'll mention it now, is that you can grep them, and for some of them that's really important. So we can hit grep and just get all the references to my new mod, or if there were errors, we could put error here and see all of the errors. Fortunately, there aren't any errors in this one. All right, you only need to build once at the beginning and then again before you publish. You don't need to rebuild every time you make a change in Workbench. That's something I didn't understand for an embarrassing long time, but I'll point that out to you now. So we're done with building. Now we're ready to launch Workbench. These dots here show you what the tool is going to use as its launch parameter. So you can see that, and if there are any problems, you can hopefully identify them there. So we'll launch by clicking Launch Workbench. It doesn't take very long. I'm just going to pause the video to keep it as short as possible. All right, Workbench has come up. We are going to run the script editor. And now if everything is correct, your projects panel should look like this. If you don't see a projects panel, you might need to select it up here and make sure it's ticked so you can see it, and then it could be you need to tab over to it. But you should have a DayZ folder at least, and then world scripts for you should see the My New Mod folder here and the DayZ folder. If it's not organized this way, then you probably want to run dabs script fix, and you can find it on the Discord, or by using Workbench Wizard, which is also on my Git. You can get access to dabs that way. You won't have Community Framework here unless you have installed or unzipped the Community Framework source code from their GitHub. So we've launched the Workbench, and it appears to have launched correctly. You also could check that by looking at its logs, but they're not terribly interesting. Now we're ready to launch the game. These are the parameters that it's going to use to launch the game. You can see that it knows that the server should launch from the DayZ folder, because that's how I have it set up. Alright, so we're in game. That worked. Alright, so the next thing we need to do is test for hot loading, and we're going to use that using WarDog's modded apple.c. If we come back into script editor, we'll find apple.c in for world. We can open it here, and we can just make a change and see if the change hot loads. So we'll change, I need to show you the original first. This apple is, you see the description or the title is the Big Apple. We're going to change that. Change it to Big Bad Apple. We'll recompile on host. You can see that it was successful. Go back to the game. And now when we hover over Apple, you can see that it says Big Bad Apple. So hot loading is working. That is what we wanted. At this point, I'm ready to kill the process. I'll show you another thing that I've put together, but we could just click the button here to kill the process, and it will kill both the server and DayZ. I added this tool mode, which will be on top of both the script editor and the game, and the K will kill the process, and L will load from scratch both the server and the game. As you're going, one thing that works really well is most of the time you only need to kill the game, you don't need to kill the server. So you can just kill the game, click up here, kill the game, make changes if they're the kind of change that you can't hot load, and then you can hit R, which will just reload the game and leave the server alone. It's a little bit faster. It's not that big of a deal. And if you want to get back to the main Kommander, which I do, you just close the toolbar and Kommander comes back up. I'm going to end this video here as it's already over 10 minutes and I wanted to keep it short. I'll create another follow-on video that shows you how to add on add-ons, and also that will demonstrate some of the additional features that I built into the tool that I think are really cool.